All right, you guys ready? Let's do it. 7 o'clock. Can you guys see, or do you, the ones that are right behind the post? Can you guys see? You good? Everybody good? There's empty tables up front. You guys want to? All righty then. Okay, so we'll get going. Thanks for coming. Point of interest, the restrooms are out the door to the right, and then make a left turn on the first left, and they're just right there. Okay, so. All right. So, 2014 general meeting. First order of business, we'll talk about proof of notice. Everybody got the notice? That's why you're here? Yep. Okay. Anybody here because they saw the sign at the bottom of the hill? Okay, that's good. All right.
I got an email. I didn't get notice.
You got an email and no paper?
Right.
Okay. You're my house. I put the paper on your door, but I probably didn't secure it well enough. Okay. So, so email. Anybody else get the email? Great. Okay. Good. Because that's what we want to do in the future is email if we can do it. So, first order of business is to approve the minutes from the last board meeting, which was our last general meeting, which was last November. Was it
December 4th, 2012.
December 4th.
Third
Okay.
document in your packet.
So, anybody want to make a motion to approve the minutes from the last general meeting?
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Okay. Any discussion? Everybody read the
Seconded.
minutes? They're online. Okay. Anybody second it?
I'll second
You
it.
already okay.
Seconded by George here.
Great. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes from last general session? All right. Good. Anybody opposed? Good. All right. They're approved. We'll approve the agenda for today. The agenda today is the bullet points on your notice. Okay. So anybody want to move to approve the agenda for today?
I so move.
All right. Anybody want to second that? Great. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the agenda for today? Great. Okay. So all in favor? Anybody opposed? Great. We're moving right along. All right. So okay. So order of business. This is what we're going to do today. Same as last year. President's report. That's mine. Treasury. We'll talk about finances. And then we'll ratify the budget for next year. It'll be similar to this year's. And we'll get reports from all of our areas of interest, the grounds, the events, and communications. So that's what we're going to do today. So your board of directors, in case folks didn't know, me, I'm Bob. And we have Jim Brennan, Ron, Dick over here. And then we had 3 new entries to help our board. Oh, Cindy, our treasurer. Yep. She wasn't one of the new, but we did have three folks help out a lot this year who joined us. So is Vicki, Barry, Dale? Vicki?
Mary couldn't make it anymore.
Okay. So anyway, it was great to have 3 new personalities on the board to help out. So keep that in mind when we ask for volunteers at the end. Okay. Good. So tonight's meeting, the agenda, we talked about that already. Okay. Someplace in there is my report. Give me a preview of everything to come here.
Well, we've seen it all now.
Yeah, so that was it. We got done a lot faster than we did last year. So, okay, so I got some missing pieces, but that's all right. So I'll just go quickly through mine. Similar to last year, we did a pretty good job. We held the board together. Nobody dropped out. We had a few people add input to the board. We held our meetings on a regular schedule once a month. I don't know how many visitors we had to board meetings this time. I don't think any.
We didn't.
3 over the year, I think.
Yeah.
But it took us, I think we should say, when Laura resigned as our social chair, it took 3 people to replace her.
Yeah, that's right.
We have 3 co-directors for social events.
Yeah. So anyway, just so you're aware, our board meetings are monthly. They're announced on our website, and they're open to the public. So any members or friends of members or anybody who's interested in the board meetings can come to the board meetings. You can add to the agenda if you contact us ahead of time. Email is the best way to do that, but we welcome anybody's input to the board meetings. So just keep that in mind. Some of the things that we did this year are really just the routine maintenance, and so as we go through each of the areas, the budget, you'll see the budget reflects the maintenance as one of our biggest budget issues, which is the mowing of the park and maintaining trees, all of those things. So those are things that concern us the most. Those are things that also bring the most to our home values and maintaining home values, which is really what the association is all about. So if you have ideas as we go through here, feel free to interject your ideas. Okay? So we'll move on to, I don't know why these are out of order unless this is not my slideshow. So we'll come back to that. I apologize.
Well, I like the swimming pool.
I'll take it.
Okay, so we'll go right into the budget. That's Cindy's area. And the budget this year, we were under budget, as we have been in the past. We've had a pretty good dues collection, 96% for 2013, which is really good, as well as a little recovery on past years. So that's added to our revenue. And so 96% is a little bit lower than last year, but the year's not over. We have another month for collecting this year's dues. So we're down. What that represents is 5.5 homeowners who have not submitted dues for 2014. Gives us a 96% collection rate. There's 130 homes. 5 and one person overpaid for a previous year, so they had partial payment for this year. So that's
2013.
for 2013, yeah. Yeah, and so anyway, so up here we have what our proposed budget was for last year, the approved budget, and then we have actual spending. Now this is as of a month ago, so actually before October. So it doesn't have October's spending or November or December, but it's projected out for the year, so it'll give you an idea where we'll end up at the end of the year. And we should be well within our proposed budget, which was our target. So anybody, you should have something like this in front of you.
It's on the back page of the announcement. It's on the agenda. It's on the back of the...
Do you have a question, Warren?
Yep. First of all, thank you all for doing this.
Sure.
The place looks great. Could you explain the thought process behind the pillars that have been constructed in the park and how much that costs?
Sure. The thought process is identity, as well as adding some character to the park other than just grass. But a lot to do with identity. How do we identify the park without putting a sign up that says this is a park? And so the pillars give it a little bit of focus. And the pillars, I think the budget was $600. I'm not sure if we spent all of that $600 on it, but it was $600. Did that include the flagpoles?
The flags, with the flags and everything, it was a total of $800.
Okay, so
Yeah.
$600.
Rounded off, yeah.
Flags?
Yes, we've been donating flags from Jim Brennan's house for our events, and so we purchased flags instead of taking the donated flags that we've been using. So, well, they weren't really donated; we would borrow them. So. Okay. So, any other questions about where we stand against our proposed budget and actual expenses? Again, you can see that common ground maintenance is the biggest expense for the whole organization. It's about $9,000 when you add it all together, and it won't be much different this year. There's just no way to not mow the lawn and maintain it.
How does that work? The question is, a lot of times they show up and it seems like when it's really dry in the middle of summer and they're mowing and really, there's no...
Yeah.
Is there a routine schedule there?
Well, it's an annual bid, so it's mow as needed at one annual price. So it's not a per mowing kind of a thing. But it includes yard work like weeding, raising bark, sweeping up, any of those kinds of things. Edging, you guys are very familiar with the edging. So at times when the grass isn't growing, there should be other things that we can do. And that includes they maintain our trails, they maintain Chandler Parkway, including the median. I don't know if you guys are all aware of that, but the median on Chandler Parkway from the corner down by Squalicum, entrance to Squalicum High School, all the way up to the property line where the park entrance is between Woodside and Spyglass. Yeah, so that whole median is maintained as well. Not the other side of Chandler Parkway where the tall weeds grow. That's not ours. Although there is a gentleman who's been maintaining it, and we appreciate that.
And we do that strip along McLeod as well. Along the sidewalk of McLeod, yeah.
The grass strip.
Yeah, the grass strip.
On our side of the road along McLeod and on our side of the road along Chandler Parkway, that grass strip is all maintained by our landscapers. So.
I mentioned that you mentioned the part across a Chandler that sometimes is high. The fellow who had been doing that voluntarily lives at the very end, the other end of Chandler Parkway, DeCoster. And we awarded him, when it's on our news page, some of you may have seen that, we awarded him a golden hammer. And he was just blown away by it. We said, this is from the Woodside Community Association. The board voted this hammer. It's a commemorative hammer from hardware sales. really fancy looking thing. And he was really excited about it. I was surprised. And he had his son come over and said, "See what they just gave me." Said, "My own subdivision won't appreciate what I do, but these guys do it." I thought it was great.
And actually, in case you're down at hardware sales, they donated the hammer
That's right.
to do that. So that was actually a couple of them.
He's a gentleman that's always out there practicing golfing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the guy with the driving range.
Wonderful fellow.
There was a question back here,
I
yeah.
have two questions. Who is responsible for that strip? I know he's doing it, but who's legally responsible for it?
Originally, the housing development below Chandler Parkway should have had a homeowners association and covenants that require maintenance and everything else, and I'm not so sure that their association exists today.
But their developer is Peck UY, and also who operates through, I believe it's Sycamore Development. And so until a home association is formed in that new area and officers are elected, then Peck Huey would be.
The developer would. Well, some developers, it's up to a certain point of development. If they have 60% or 70%, whatever's in their original bylaws, then they relinquish control at a certain point and leave it to the homeowners to do that. I don't know that they ever had control of it. But,
And then my other question was about, sometimes there's been graffiti on the fences.
Mhm.
Is that our responsibility as a group, or is that homeowners? How does that work?
It's the homeowner's responsibility. The Bellingham Police Department wants to know about the graffiti, so if you can snap a picture and send it to them. So two real important things. One, report it, because they recognize who's doing the graffiti by what the graffiti is, and so they want to address it that way. And then the other important thing is to remove it as quickly as possible, because graffiti artists like to have their art around for a while, and if it keeps disappearing really fast, it takes the fun out of it. So clean it up fast and get a picture and send it to Bellingham Police.
It might be a good thing to put online for people who don't know that, who aren't new.
Yeah.
In fact, did we ever put this coatings on the...
On mailbox, no, we've got a graffiti spray that we can put on our mailboxes. We had a little bit of graffiti on the mailboxes once, and we're a volunteer group. We just haven't found the right people at the right day to go and spray the mailboxes, but we can put this anti-graffiti spray on the mailboxes, which is transparent. You won't see it, but if anybody does do anything on the mailboxes, we can just wash it right off.
And we spent a few extra bucks, or Laura Hines, in charge of functions, did, for the graffiti-proof coating on the neighborhood watch signs.
Yeah, that was accomplished this year. Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we were. This is the proposed budget for 2014. It's a little bit blurry, but everybody has a paper copy in front of them. Some points of interest: the common, the maintenance for mowing the lawn is we moved $600 from the do-it-yourself mowing. We were hiring kids and stuff to do part of the work, and we moved it to the professional landscapers budget, and took the self-service part out of our maintenance. So that's a little bit of a change. We also added more money to events. When we get to the event stuff and we start talking about it, you'll see that events are real popular, and they become a little bit more expensive as we've made them more elaborate. And so we'll cover that in a little bit, but we added $500. That doesn't mean we'll necessarily spend it, but we recognized right away that we needed just a little bit more freedom in the budget for events, because we can make them, more fun. So that's that, and then we added a park enhancement reserve. That's a big ticket item on there. We have the money to do that, and the reserve is just that. It's put money aside in the event that we find a need to enhance the park. And so we decided to put the money aside, just like we're doing with trees. I don't know if you're aware of it, but tree maintenance is expensive. The common trees that we have need to be pruned about every 3 years to keep them to the shape that they're supposed to be and keep them within the height limit for the neighborhood. And so that budget's about $5,000 to do all the trees. And we put a reserve in every year, $1,750 a year, and then every 3 years we have enough money. We don't have to dig deep to have the funds to prune the trees. So we thought, well, we'll do something similar to that in the park, and it's just food for thought, but it looks like it fits in the budget right now, yes.
Do you have a goal for the park enhancement reserve in terms of dollars?
No.
So you're just going to keep putting money in there?
If unless somebody decides that we've reached a target number that fits something that we want to do to the park, and everybody says, yeah, that's a good idea. Or if we get enough money in there where somebody's saying, okay, that's enough park enhancement money, we need to spend it somewhere else. And we can always move money out of that budget. So because it's in a reserve doesn't mean it can't be voted to pull money out of that reserve if we had a catastrophic event or something, a sinkhole in the park, and we needed to fill it in, and we needed $30,000, and we had it in the reserve. We would grab it out of the reserve and use that.
Bob, I'm not sure this is the right area to talk about this, but one of the areas that I noticed last year was nobody came through and did anything about all the caterpillars in the trees. But now that I see that there's a tree fund reserve, I'm wondering why those dollars weren't spent to focus on at least those problems that happened.
Yeah, so the question is, why didn't somebody spray the common trees when the tent caterpillars were out? So, Ron, you want to speak on that a little bit?
We contacted the city arborist, and they said, don't worry about it. They go away, and they're not going to do any permanent damage. The city wasn't doing anything to their trees. They just let them go, and it didn't seem like the right thing to do, but we took their advice and let it go, and that was it.
Yeah, I think my problem with that is that those caterpillars end up in my yard on my fruit trees.
Yeah.
And it is a problem.
I know, yeah. On mine too. Yeah.
I published an article on it that actually linked to the city site and said, here's what the city said, and here's a story in the Bellingham Herald about it, where like Russ said, if you got young trees, they're going to kill it. So it gave the recommended cure, and I published that on the website. So it's there from, I think it ran for the first 2 quarters, first quarter and second quarter this year. I think I took it down in the third quarter.
So that's a point. We talked about that stuff at the board meetings, and then put it out there. Like we put the like Jim said, the articles from the Herald and the letter from the City of Bellingham, and we put them on the website. If it stimulates some interest and somebody has a concern, like Russ, feel free anytime like that. Like I cut them out of my trees, but
I cut them all out of all of the community trees, the ones within 2 or 3 blocks.
Yeah. Sure. And so, well, good. Okay. But I don't know what the migration was. I'm up against the woods, and so the migration was out of the woods into my yard.
Is that something to be done preventatively though for this coming year, so that we can spray them or whatever is needed before?
Like a nominal option.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
The city said no.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. When we called the city, they said they usually come, I think, like every 7 years, and they stay for a year, maybe 2, and then they'll slough off again, and you can see them. So I asked about preventative, because I have apple trees.
Yeah.
All along my fence, and they said, am I going to hurt your apple trees?
Can you hear them in the back? Okay.
So that's what I got from the city.
But is that what the city would do or not do? But we could, for our common areas, see if Jose or someone could do that preventively though for us, could we?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a preventive spray or if you have to spray them when they're
answer that is, I'm a master gardener. Spraying is not the answer, but cutting them out manually, like Bob did, like I did our block, and up around Yogi's house and on the corners that was empty. And that's the best way to manage them, but you have to stay on it for that short amount of time, that month of the year. But spraying is not recommended, and it's toxic. You really want that?
So,
It's not recommended.
No, I take back my comment. I would like the cutting out better, but maybe we can bring in somebody to do that.
well, I was going to say, why don't we just, if they begin to reappear, let's address it right away that way and have them prune it. Next year's tree pruning time, but it's probably a little different cutting than pruning.
One thing we could do is to offer, we never talked about having a kind of a tool bank. If we bought the, whatever you call it, that you have one too, I'm sure, the extender thing that you clip on. Mm-hmm. But, we don't all have to have that. And we might be able to, as a community, know who has it and who could borrow it. So Ross could borrow it from me or from you, and, or Ross has one, I guess, you do yours.
Okay.
So, we might think about that as a community.
Sure. Okay.
2 points. There's the form at the end of the pack that you should have on your table. If you don't have it, we'll get another one. Is a questionnaire. Right in the center of it, it says, would you participate in the equipment pooling? Because we've done it in the past, and it's been very successful. So we're all for it, Mary. Just contact Ron, and whenever you've got anything like that, and he's usually going to coordinate that. I will actually make a formal motion that since we got a master gardener, we're blessed. And I'd make a motion that she head up a gardening committee to basically monitor and make sure that whatever we do is going to be green and healthy. Right?
Hey, I'm your girl.
There you go.
It's been moved and seconded that you be committee chair for.
Take my advice.
All right.
Will you take it? Yes.
Careful what you ask for.
Okay.
Bob, just another quick question on the Park Reserve Fund.
Sure.
A couple years ago, the board had done a lot of research about landscaping options.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, the notice that was put on my door included photographs of concrete things and buildings and stuff. So could you just enlighten us what the conversation has been like at the board meetings? Do you guys have an intention to go in one direction or another, or can we leave the park green and let the little kids enjoy it?
Point of order, could we come back to that, because we never voted on marriage. We had a motion and a second, but no vote.
Wait, we've got the budget. We're way out of order. Budget's next.
Yeah, let's conclude the budget dialogue, and then we'll and
Warren want that motion to get lost in the woodwork.
Yeah.
So if that's key, if that topic is key to approving the budget, then we can go ahead and conclude that. Otherwise, we can hold it till grounds, and we can talk about that.
That's
So,
fine. I
okay.
actually just want to know what supplies, repairs, and improvements indicate.
For the park.
Yeah. It's on common area maintenance.
Yep. In the past, we've done things like we planted along the front, and we purchased bark ground cover, and then we recruited a few volunteers, and we put the ground cover out. It also included thatching, which we don't hire out. We rented a thatch thing, and we walk up and down the grass. Those kinds of things.
Includes the paint for the playground equipment.
And
playground.
This last year was the awning was replaced for the playground equipment. There's in the spring and summer there's an awning that covers it. So it's that kind of stuff.
There's a new swing in there too. The swing.
One of the swings.
The dethatching and other heavy work was all done with pool equipment. In other words, we leased it, but we passed the word out, and a bunch of people came in and kicked in like, I don't know, $10 or $15, and they got the use of the thing for half of an afternoon. So everybody it really cut our expense, and it really benefited everybody.
Yeah.
But Ron handles that.
But that's what that portion of the budget is set aside. It's the non-professional maintenance, the stuff we don't pay for the landscapers to
Okay,
do.
thank you.
Sure. Yes.
It's probably a problem, but Warren's question seems to me to be relevant to the budget.
Okay.
So, in fact, I'm not sure that I would want to approve $10,000 to a parking temporary to a pension fee, which is something that I don't want to approve.
Right. Okay, so that's a good question. So let's talk about that. It's just the budget just allocates funds for a reserve. Does not allocate funds to be spent on a particular item or even to be spent at all. It's strictly a reserve. The reserve would take, it would take a board approval to spend money out of the reserve or move money out of the reserve for another fund if we had a need to do that. Typically, a fund that size is really slated for a particular goal in mind, like we want to put a tennis court in. So we would say, okay, $10,000 a year, and in 5 years we'll have enough for a tennis court, something like that. In this particular case, all we have is ideas, input from people who live in the neighborhood, and so we have that input that there's some desire to do something there that's more useful than just graphs, and so the answer is always no if we work within the budget we have. So if we allocate funds and we plan ahead a little bit to say, yes, we've allocated funds and now we can maybe do something at some point, it's not so distant. Right now, if we said, yeah, let's do, let's put in a tennis court. To budget for that, we would be looking ahead, many, many years. Whoever thought it was a great idea, their kids may be old by the time we put in a tennis court. So
our preference is to have grass and not a tennis court. Does that go against the budget?
You can, or you can make a motion that you don't want to have a reserve for the for park improvements. And
in the past, for major expenses, we've had special parks, like the mailboxes, for example, with a special collection. And I don't see a reason why we need to set aside a reserve if there's a substantial number of us that don't intend to use it. We don't think that the park needs enhancing. I'm happy with the way it is myself.
I wonder though too. Some of the reserves.
Let me. He still has the floor, so let's hear that. So okay. So the comment is that as opposed to reserve a special levy to pay for any kinds of improvements might be preferred, and that we should examine. Is this like a motion? We want to put it out.
There's a prior question.
Okay, hang on.
I was asking you a question so far.
Okay. All right. So we can continue the discussion then. Yes.
On my door was 2 pictures of a basketball courts and one of a pagoda.
And I brought those. So, yeah.
The reason I came tonight was because of those items. Are we doing it, or is this just a dream? If it was a dream, wouldn't have wasted my time.
Let Ron.
Sure, Ron, you want to speak on that?
Yeah. In I think it was August, I had a group of mothers come over to our house as a group, and they said, we really would like to have a basketball court, like for shooting hoops in the park type of thing. And I said, well, this is great that you guys are for this, but I says, the whole community has to be there, and why don't you get together and circulate a petition and bring it to the meeting? And I think some of them, I wasn't at the ice cream social, but apparently there was some kind of petition delivered at the ice cream social by a number of parents that wanted to have this basketball thing in the park. But before we're going to spend any money, there has to be a lot of want for it. So, we went ahead and we got some pictures of what a basketball court would look like. We got some basic ideas on what it might cost in there. Right now, everything is beyond our financial abilities, I believe, as the way we are. But then we've had other people that like this idea of a picnic area in the front of the park, and so we got some pictures of something like what that would look like and put it forward. That's pie in the sky, I think, but it looks real nice. But maybe someday we can have it. This is how these things come. People come to us and they have these ideas, and we'll fly them up the flagpole, see who salutes. And
yeah, I should add to that I got a response from a new resident who's Cindy Becker, I think it was, who's a are you here? Is Cindy here? Yeah. Good. No? Okay. Well, anyway, she said, I'm all for all this stuff. I want this, I want that. Here's some samples. She's a landscape architect licensed in California. She's saying, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. Frankly, I didn't like the ones that she sent. I mean, she sent some, like, park park shelters, tin things. I went, But anyway, but the point was she wanted to get in on all that too. So again, we try to respond by saying, if people are interested in this, we're here to do what you folks want. Tell us what you want. If enough people have come forth and said, we want you to do more with what you're providing for the community. Well, Cindy and Bob and the rest have done a marvelous job of managing our finances. We haven't had to change dues for years and years and years and years. The one time there was, or two times, there was a special assessment. It created havoc. That's why a lot of the people who are still in arrears haven't paid their dues, because we had a special assessment at some time. Created all sorts of problems. We prefer, since we're running a surplus now, we're able to put some money aside every year, we'd rather save that. So if enough people want something fancy, we'll have money available for it. We don't have to say you got to wait 10 years. If they don't want it, great. Then we have money that holds off the need to raise dues for hopefully another 10 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're new to the neighbourhood, and I would just say that for anything that is, we all have lots of nice ideas. I've got 1,000 nice ideas of how to spend, money that I don't have, and that we would just follow a normal democratic process when it comes to any such proposals, which is A, are there enough people that really do say, yeah, let's getting it on the ballot? Yes. Are there enough votes to count of the people that vote, so that we don't end up with, two people show up and vote and then immediately the dues go up? And that thirdly, a majority of the people who say, yes, I'm voting, say yes. And so, business as usual would be my observation for spending any significant capital sums of money, and not just, well, I saw it in a magazine, it'd be nice in our park, don't worry, the other 129 people in the neighborhood will help pay for it, because that's kind of not my view of democracy.
Right, and it won't work that way. We do vote on things like that, and it has to be brought forth by a number of people before we would. We've had all sorts of suggestions of what we can do, but if they're just like you say, I saw something amazing and I liked it, they usually don't move forward. This is an area where it not only has been suggested by a number of people, but we had some issues in the neighborhood regarding basketball hoops. And so I went around to examine the basketball hoops. And we have 11 basketball hoops in the street in our neighborhood, which isn't a lot. But it's 11 basketball hoops. So there's a desire for kids to play hoops. And then there's some concern about kids playing hoops in the street or in our adjacent to our common grounds where they trample the bushes and the garbage and the bushes. And so there looked like there might have been some interest, more than just the people that came forward and said we'd like to see a community sports court or something of that fashion. But it takes more than just interest. It takes planning, it takes money, and timing. And the timing is way out there if we think we're going to do it with spur of the moment decision making. So it's to plan to have funds available for something is not necessarily a bad idea. If we are running a surplus right now and we decide that we don't want to reserve that money for anything, we just want to have it in the budget, then it'll find a place to go. Just a little bit at a time, but it just oftentimes you can't just let money sit around. You have to have it penciled for something. So we only have one general fund that is of that significance, and that is our park and our common grounds. So we set money aside for our common grounds to do something with it that may enhance home values, that may enhance the quality of life in our neighborhood. Who knows? But there's a lot of good reasons to have money set aside to improve the one asset that we all own together, and that's our park.
Question?
Hang on, there's one right ahead of you. Yes.
Have you heard anything about what they're doing up above? Because at one point there was supposed to be like a rock wall and in the Northwood Park.
Yeah, at this point there are no plans to do anything. Well, there are the original plans to do Northwood Park with some improvements at each end, But there's no funding or any schedule to do any of that work. So it's years out for any kind of improvement there.
And then one other question, and I think I may have heard you say, I'm not sure, that the board could approve using that money. Is that right?
Yeah, the board approves using any of the money that's in the fund. So it could be, like I have every year I have $1,000 of in my budget. The president gets $1,000 to help one of the causes that we have.
Discretionary fund.
At some point, that money I've used that money for. And we had a really, really small budget for communications, and we couldn't do the website enhancements that we needed or wanted, and so I used a couple $100 for that. We have done more social activities than we did in the past, which used a couple $100 more. So I was able to use that money there. So we move money around as needed, but it's a board approval thing. It's not something that's random.
I guess my thought would just be, if we do something to the park, obviously there's feelings about it,
Mm-hmm.
and if we do approve the budget, maybe we just put something in the meeting minutes that it has to be a majority vote of the committee, not just a board approved money.
Sure.
It's a budget item.
Yeah.
If it's a budget item, it's
That
going to
was-
come up for vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George has a question.
Okay.
Well, Ron was first.
Yeah. Let me get Ron's question from a minute ago. And go ahead.
Am I correct in assuming that we can set aside money in a reserve, but if we wanted to spend that money, let's say on a basketball court or a shelter or something like that, any major money, we'd have to come to a meeting like this and have it approved. Is that correct?
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
we just couldn't go and spend it.
that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
What's major money? I guess.
Well-
What's the criteria for major money?
to me, anything over $1,000.
Well, there's nothing in the bylaws that indicate that there's a dollar threshold for spending for spending. So, I think the suggestion was to put some type of identifier on the money that's in reserve that says, it can't be spent for anything until it's approved by, a general meeting or something like that. And that can be done. Okay, we've got one person ready.
Could we just move it into the cash reserve? I'm happy to we have a cash reserve, but I'm not happy to have a designated cash reserve for park investment. So either I would propose or even make a motion that we move it into cash reserve, or that we have our reserve of $50 or something for household association. If there's that much accumulated.
Okay, so let me make a quick comment on cash reserve, and then I'll take your question. Cash reserve means that there's the money's not earmarked for anything, and so any fund could use that money. I mean, even though it's earmarked for park enhancements, we typically would have a pretty in-depth conversation before we move that money to some other area. If it's in cash reserve, and Ron decides that he wants to put a driveway through the park or whatever, and he needs $10,000, it's in cash reserves. It's easier to move into the park and spend it than it is if it's earmarked for specific park improvements. We take a vote, yeah.
But a board vote.
It's a board vote, right?
Board vote, not a community vote.
Not a community vote.
Where can you put it where it's part of the community vote and also
Right where it's listed.
Right where
there
it's
it is.
listed, and then earmark it for community vote.
Maybe it should say community reserve, community vote reserve or something like that, rather than park enhancement.
Yep.
So that it would be clear to us that the community gets the vote in addition to the board.
Right.
Right?
Okay, we can do something like that.
It would make it more clear and
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is probably in the same vein, because you're going to have a huge expenditure like that. It's not typical. Wouldn't it have to go to the entire 130 households and then have to have a majority vote, not a general meeting, like they did in the mailboxes, every household had a say.
Right. The difference with the mailboxes was that was a levy, So it was a special levy of funds, and so that gets approved differently than, raising money gets approved differently than spending money. According to our bylaws, there's no dollar threshold, so like I think that's a lot of money. But in our bylaws, there's nothing that designates that $10,000 is requires any more decision-making than $100. So there's no stipulation that it has to go out to the population.
And I think we should make a motion then, if any expenditure over $1,000 has to go to the board.
Right, the Rockies money.
Like a full vote, so it's full disclosure, everything like that. Is that possible?
That would be
Anything's possible.
it's,
Yeah, anything's possible. It may take some bylaw revisions, but that's,
Well, there's some things, for instance, like, and I had a question earlier too, that maybe Ron or Cindy could answer, but for instance, we've had washouts in the park, and we've had to bring in contractors to bring in and redesign cement pieces and things. And it has a long history clear back to the developer that probably never did it right in the first place. But there's expenses like that sometimes can sneak up on us, and we don't want to wait till we have a general calling of a general meeting, which has to be announced, 30 days or whatever ahead of time.
like the trees on West Hills, they all had to be replaced.
Yeah, we have to replace trees in West Hill, so that's over 1,000. So there are practical things that we probably need to look at. However, I really like this idea of what you call the community vote reserve, because then that would be for things in common of major consequence. So rather than messing with our cash reserve of 5,000, that you would have to have a whole community vote on every time we needed something that came up as an emergency, for instance. Instead, we would have this community vote reserve, which would be for major projects that we have in common. Is that what I'm hearing?
That argument that we'd like to use 5,000 as a threshold.
It's basically anything that is a permanent capital improvement in my mind. A repair.
Maintenance is different.
Right, it's completely different. A washout needs replacing, it costs $7,000. Okay, it costs $7,000. We've got the money, yes or no? Yes, we have. Good, let's get on with it. The board votes that it's done. Compared to, let's have a basketball court. Well, that costs, I don't know what it costs, but $30,000. We've got the money, but that needs a community to say, yes, that's fine to spend that money. We've all agreed of 130 households, 80 households say, I've just been waiting for one of those, or whatever the right threshold is.
Matt, what would be a good category for that, for a community association? I mean, I just said community vote, but what would you call it?
Well, I think it
Capital improvement project. Capital improvement project, yes.
Permanent change to the environment of the community.
Well, I put that into a motion. I think that's.
yeah, I think you're on to the right idea too.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I move the motion that we designate this in terms of the fund shall be for capital improvement projects to be voted on by the community at large.
Well, at the annual general meeting.
Okay, so the motion is that the $10,000, whatever we call it, park enhancement
Park enhancement
reserve, park enhancement reserve be designated a capital improvement fund.
Capital improvement fund.
Capital improvement fund, which would require community vote to be spent, essentially. So it's money that can't be transferred in and out or moved. It can only be parked there until the community votes.
Not at an annual meeting, though. It needs to be more wide, community-wide, though, like we did with the mailboxes.
Yeah, like changing the bylaws.
Well, one of the pieces I think that could help us is, I'm getting ahead of the agenda maybe, but in changing some of the bylaws so that we can have votes via email and we can have other announcements by email. The way the current bylaws are is that we have to, that's why you have those little things hanging on your doorknob that we passed around, because that's the old way that we've been doing it. But if we could get it into the email piece, we could do some business actually quite quickly if we needed to via email.
May I suggest, as secretary, since I got to write this up as a motion, I would suggest that we state it in such a way that any permanent capital improvement, that's language, funded by the park enhancement reserve should require a community vote.
No.
No?
No.
Now we're changing the name.
They don't like
No, I find reserve.
So you want to say that whatever goes in there,
It's going to be a capital improvement fund.
Capital
it
improvement.
will be
fund.
capital improvement? Because I thought it was potentially for maintenance too, whatever might
No,
come up.
capital improvement
Okay.
fund.
We're talking
Okay.
about changing this to capital improvement.
So now,
project,
okay,
Which
so,
our treasurer then would keep on the budget.
Right.
But when it comes to how it should be spent, it would be a motion that it takes a majority vote of all homeowners.
When we get to the bylaws, we need to insert that.
That's right.
It'll never work then. We'll never get a majority of all homeowners
okay, so,
unless we say those who vote.
right now,
A lot of them won't vote.
okay, so
Yep.
let me just be really clear about something. Right now, we have to operate by the bylaws that are written right now, and there's nothing in the bylaws that stipulates that the entire population needs to vote. There's nothing in the bylaws.
The bylaws
Right,
are changed.
right.
We won't do
So I
that.
just,
It's not impossible.
that's right. The bylaws need to be changed. If we're going to put money in a fund like we're talking about, the bylaws will need to be changed in order to do anything with that money after we vote. Because there's nothing in the bylaws that allows us to spend that money.
I had a question before this motion. I have my hand up. You went to 3 other people. I still have my hand up.
Okay. So, I apologize for missing that. There is going to be, after the motion, and if somebody seconds it, there'll be discussion, but go ahead.
This was before the motion was
Okay, go
made.
ahead.
Are we a nonprofit organization?
Yeah.
Yes. How much money in excess can a nonprofit organization have in their coffers? I say this because I'm in another club that's a nonprofit organization. We just missed being looked at this year and losing 90% of the money that we have in our pocket. So we may want to look at what we're doing. It's a good idea what this gentleman has, perfect. But as a community organization, we can only have so much money before it gets spent.
Cindy, do you know what that is?
I do. I work with 401ks, I'm sorry, with Form 990s with the IRS. And you're correct, if your nonprofit raises money, you have all sorts of restrictions on what happens with the money that you bring in. If you raise money, if it's a dues-paying organization, you don't have those restrictions. So we don't have any such constraints on us because we expend all of our money on our own maintenance for our community. We're not going out and spending it on something else. As long as we're spending it on our own operation, according to our bylaws and covenants, then we don't have that restriction.
So I recommend that we...
Warren has an
I recommend that
observation
we
too.
identify a clause that states just that in our nonprofit papers,
Yeah.
and we'll post it on our website so everybody can see that.
Yeah, Warren has.
Yeah.
We haven't voted on the budget yet, so we could actually move to cap that fund exactly where it is so that it's not a bottomless pit of cash. And that way, while we're figuring out what to do with the bylaws and everything, we're not building up a cash reserve that the board feels it could spend without at its own discretion. And I personally like the green grass in the park, and would like to make sure that I have a chance to voice my opinion about any change of character of the park, because that's what we're talking about, before the board decides what to do with money that keeps building up.
Okay. So just so everybody heard that Warren's comment. So just so you're aware, this fund is just for the year 2014. It's not. I mean, you'd have to approve it every year after year after year to build it beyond that point. And we can redesign or restructure the verbiage.
But the motion on the floor, though, was that since it's a capital improvement project, no capital improvement project can happen without the vote of the entire neighborhood.
Well, a permanent capital improvement, yeah, it's going to be
Okay, so, yes.
Just in the past, the previous boards in the past have raised and had a reserve of over $30,000 designated to do the trails, for instance. So this isn't something new. I mean, if you have excess money, I mean, you should be saving it for something. Personally, the park is lacking in something. I don't know what it is, but something needs to be done in the park. And I'm not a proponent of a cement. I'm not proponent of anything, but I think it's a great idea to have this reserve and to, even if it's doing more landscaping or make it prettier, or leveling that back out, making that back flat grass where you can actually do something instead of the rough sloping. I mean, so it's, to put a cap on it, I think is absolutely ridiculous. If we have the money, we should be saving it for a capital thing. And we should be capping it at 10,000. We should keep saving it and be good money managers like the board has been. That's just my 2 cents.
There was one more hand up. Yes, sir.
Matt made the comment that the board ought to have the discretion to do maintenance stuff that might be unexpected. So I hope our motion isn't going to box you guys in. And I don't think I know he didn't mean to, and well, no, I mean, we might conceivably need to take something out of that $10,000 to do some kind of a maintenance thing. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so we have the original motion. We've had a lot of discussion.
Could you read the motion back, please?
well, it got changed. That's what I mean. Because what you're proposing is exactly what I was saying.
Okay, but that's not what the motion was.
Okay.
So let's
the
motion, the original motion, which was to change
any permanent capital improvement from the community reserve using the park enhancement reserve requires a community vote. Keep it simple. No? What do you want to say?
I hear 2 parts to this motion. One is to change the park enhancement reserve to be changed to capital improvement projects. That's number 1. Number 2 of the motion I heard, but this particular reserve can only be dispersed or expended by the vote of the neighborhood.
By the vote of the community at large.
Yes,
and
there
so
you go.
This is designed to just be permanent changes to the whole look and feel of the community. Not things that are maintenance, not things that are repairs, things that come up, goodness knows, I hope not, but we have an earthquake and there's a big fissure in the land in the middle of the park that requires $10,000 to fix. So that's maintenance and repairs. That's not a permanent change. We're talking about the things that have been put forward for this meeting, that we want a basketball court, we want a pavilion, and we want a swimming pool, we want a whatever. That's a permanent capital, a permanent change to the look and feel of the neighborhood at large. Right, that's capital project.
Hey, who's supposed to be watching those kids?
Okay,
So I probably would try something new this year and let families come.
Well, they've been good.
Yeah, they've been doing really good. I really appreciate it. Okay, so
I now have any permanent capital improvement from the Community Reserve Fund must be subjected to a community-wide vote.
Okay.
No?
So, well,
I don't like it either, but that's okay.
I only need one person's agreement that is the motion on the floor. Matt, is that the motion?
Yes, that is the motion on the floor.
Okay, so that's the motion. Do we have a second?
George.
Sorry, can I hear it again?
Okay, Matt, read your motion to us.
Well, I wrote it. Any permanent capital improvement from the Community Reserve Fund must be subjected to a community-wide vote.
Yeah,
Now,
the part
and then-
we're missing, Jim, is the name on this budget, to change the name Park Enhancement Reserve to Capital Improvement Projects.
Capital Improvement Project.
Very, very specific.
So we're changing the name of a budget line item.
Right.
That's number 1, and then the way you worded it for the second part of that.
Okay.
Okay, so that
Got
is
it.
the motion on the floor. That doesn't mean that that has to be the final motion. I'm just asking, does anybody have a second for that motion?
Yeah, someone, it's been seconded.
It's been seconded?
And Mary.
Okay. Any discussion that we haven't already had?
Mary.
I'm not trying to shut anybody up. I'm just
No,
looking
no.
at the clock, wondering if there's any more discussion.
Mary wanted to say something, right?
No, they clarified it. I wanted
Oh,
to clarify it for you.
Okay, I will ask, I'll posit the question. We want to be sure that whatever is maintenance, not permanent improvement, will be covered in the maintenance budget. And we always authorize that with a regular budget, exactly like we've done, and that's what we'll continue, right? No problem. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion has been seconded. There's no discussion. So all in favor of the motion, which is changing the name of the line item and stipulating that it takes a vote of the entire community to spend money from that portion of the budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Is that what did?
So then the majority vote, you don't have to have,
Is this more discussion?
I just have
I'm
one.
just kidding.
Some majority vote is, if we have 130 and 51% vote yes, then it's good, right? It's not that you have to have a vote from every single person.
Correct.
Okay, so the concern is, do you have to have a vote from 130 households? The answer is currently, with our bylaws, the way they are written, no, you do not. Okay, you just need to solicit votes from the entire population with 30 or 60 days. I can't remember which one this falls under. There's two stipulations, either 30 or 60 days. You need to solicit votes from the entire population. That's property owners, not just renters or anything. So it's a little bit of work to reach everybody. And then you wait for a response, and then from the votes that are returned, so if 6 votes are returned and 4 are in favor, then that's how the vote goes. So there are some types of votes, and I'll have to look it up because I can't remember. Some types of votes require a certain amount of return from the population, and some votes do not. So it just, yeah. So we got through that, and it's 8 o'clock. Does anybody want to stick around for the rest of the show? Or is it
Please.
So I can just go really fast over a couple of very important issues. Yes.
We need to approve the budget. That was
We haven't even gotten to it.
Yes.
That's what we're saying.
So, okay. So now, considering the change that has been made to the budget, I'd like a motion to approve the budget. I'll make that motion and second it. Anybody have any discussion on approving the budget? Okay, all in favor?
Oh, wait a minute. I have. Well, no, I think that the motion should come also not only to approve the budget, but to approve it with gratitude to our treasurer, Cindy.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk on this budget. That's all I want to say. Thank
So, all in favor of approving Cindy's budget for the year 2014?
Aye.
Aye.
2014.
With
And
appreciation.
all opposed? Nobody? Great. So it's unanimous. The budget's approved with the stipulation that the... Okay, so we'll have the revised verbiage on the budget posted on our website with the minutes from this meeting. I'm going to go really fast through this thing. Okay, so Ron, so what the heck is Ron responsible for? Just so you guys know, Ron is responsible for our common grounds and our park. There's our park the way it used to be. That's how it looks. That's where it's located. Anybody not know where our park is? Wow, I'm so glad we got past that. We used to have people show up at the meeting not recognize that we actually had a park now off of Woodside Way. So that's the play set. So that's the basketball court we had installed last week. Okay. So these are some examples of half courts that communities are installing around. Okay. So that's my idea. I like that one. Yeah.
Volleyball too.
Tell everybody there's a great full-size basketball court right at Northern Heights. It's covered, it's lit. And our kids went there and they loved it, so they have parties down there.
Yep. And there are 11 hoops in our neighborhood along the curbsides where kids are playing. And you want discussion, is it involving the Cougar logo on the court, or is that...
Yes. Questioning, does anybody know who owns the basketball hoop on North Heather Place? The one that blows over in the wind and lays in the road a lot of times.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Is that the one that's at the cul-de-sac, in the center of the cul-de-sac down there?
No, it's
North Heather.
North Heather.
North Heather, I'm sorry.
North Heather. Okay.
That's right by Mary's house.
I think maybe they left the basketball hoop there, to be honest. I think maybe
that's the word in the neighborhood. And
has anybody tried moving it and see if anybody can play?
Sometimes we pick it up when the wind blows it over.
Blocks the cul-de-sac. I'd be happy to get it removed if it doesn't belong to anybody, because it's kind of an eyesore.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we put something out like a blast email and see if anybody claims it, and if not, then we can donate it to somebody.
That's you can reduce your count from 11 to 10.
Now we're down to improvement. All right, so there's where we at. Some gazebo ideas that went up in front of Warren's house on the grass right there in the front. And we added a new rooftop, and that's my idea. So it fits really nice into the slope. I'm sorry. Yeah, solar heating. Yep. So. Okay, so this year it's really important. We had 3 volunteers this year for our community events, and they were all a huge success. Not that Laura Hines didn't do a fantastic job, because she really did. She set the bar really high, and these folks have reached it and surpassed it. We finally got a movie in the park, which I've been bugging people about. So what do we have? We have Project Santa Claus coming up December 7th.
First
Okay,
Saturday.
December 7th. It's easy, you guys. Pick up a toy, don't wrap it, and bring it to the park December 7th, and the firemen come and do all the work. So they bring Santa Claus, and the kids love it. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't have kids and you just want to enjoy something in the morning, come down there, get a cup of coffee with us, or cocoa or something, and
they take checks and cash too.
Yep, and watch the kids. It's a lot of fun. So we did the movie in the park. Did anybody go to that? Okay, handful. We had about a head count of about 100 people. Some of them from our neighborhood. But it was really successful. We combined it with we called it adult night out, where adults can come and bring their own beverages and stuff. So we might enhance that a little bit more, or separate the two and do adults one night. And
movie popcorn machine. Oh, it was great. It was great. Yeah, only a few burns.
It really was a lot of fun. So even if you don't have kids, it was a kids movie, but it's still kind of fun to sit outside and watch a movie. So I really want to modify it a little bit and put parking for anybody else have a hot rod. Put parking for old cars, and we'll have drive-in movie. We'll just keep going. Jim Brennan does our communications, and again, if you haven't been to our website, you need to go there. Everything we're talking about, and ideas for spending money, that kind of stuff, all on the website long before we ever get to doing anything about it. He's way ahead of us. And then if you missed one of the social activities, there's always some short video clips or snapshots of what went on, and it's kind of fun to see how exciting those things are.
I'll have a movie of this up in a couple days.
Really, really important. If you haven't forwarded your email address, forward it to Jim. We are moving forward with some bylaw changes to enhance the bylaws to allow for email to be our official form of communication. Okay, so that we can send out notices by email, and we can receive responses back like votes and that kind of stuff from a specific email address. So I think we already have people that have been that are on the bylaws committee. Russ, you volunteered, right?
Volunteer, I think.
I want to make sure I'm not volunteering you again if you didn't. So we have a few folks. If you're interested in having input on the bylaws changes. And if you don't know what the bylaws read like, they're on our website, and you can read the original version on our website, and you'll recognize there's a couple of places there where we've identified changes that need to be done. You can review those, have input, or you can participate, which would be even cooler. So, but we have a meeting scheduled for January
21st.
To vote on the bylaw changes, so we should have those out. Everybody should be aware of them and notified in plenty of time to come to another meeting in January to vote on the bylaw changes. Yes?
Matt is willing to volunteer to also be on that bylaws committee.
That'd be great.
So, anybody else?
Is that official now?
Yeah.
It's already on.
We never got close.
Well, this is because it never met.
That's all right.
Yeah.
But we will.
I'm happy to.
Okay.
Okay, Matt.
Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's a good combination. That'll be great.
You
Okay.
want one of them to be a chair?
Matt had his hand up.
Thanks, Rick. I already have the chair.
I am asking this because we last year's annual meeting, we had a bylaws committee, but everybody's been so busy, nobody's called the meeting.
Okay, Dick's trying to be really polite. Bob was the chair of last year's committee, and he never called a meeting. And he's lucky he showed up to any of the board meetings this year. He's been very busy. I know because I know him personally. And so I'm happy to not be the chair if somebody else would like to be the chair.
Matt said yes.
Okay.
I heard him. He did. Well, he's new. Put him to work.
Wow. Are you okay, Matt? Yes. All right.
I'll have you.
All right.
Great.
So, Matt, do we have your email?
We do now.
Yeah, I'll
He just wrote it down.
Okay.
Actually, I gave it to you before.
So, if anybody that wants to communicate with Matt about bylaw changes, we'll make sure his information's up on our website. Yes.
So do we have a designated attorney that's going to review bylaws, or how that works?
A designated attorney?
So do we have an attorney that's working?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have budget for legal
Yeah.
review, or legal
So review
fees.
the bylaws,
Yeah.
and who does review the bylaws? So this attorney reviews the bylaws?
The bylaws haven't been changed, so we haven't reviewed them since the
1999 was the last time they were changed.
Yeah.
Right, but
will
So,
the attorney
yes.
review the new one?
Yes.
For money.
Yes.
Very good.
And how are we voting on that again?
We have a meeting just like this on January
21st.
And
21st.
I vote at that meeting?
No, the bylaws say who has to vote to change the bylaws. I think that's included.
Oh, so-
Right. The bylaws change is one of those things that I described earlier, that every household needs to be notified
I
and
don't.
have a certain period of time to review the changes, and then notified that there's a meeting at a particular time. I think it's 30 days.
I think that's the covenants rather than the bylaws. By the way, I have spoken to an attorney about the bylaws. They said the main things we want to get done are no-brainers. Go ahead, do them right away, no problem. You should have done it long ago.
What are the main things?
Like allowing electronic verifications, so you don't have to look up your deed form and bring it to Bob and say this proves I own my house. I can look it up on the county records. I already have done that for everybody. So everybody here, you've either presented a piece of paper. I've already looked it up and said I got the proof of their deed. So you don't have. That has to be officially authorized. And then there's parts, our bylaws, there's words missing. There's sentences that don't make sense.
No, okay, yeah.
Stuff like that. Real simple stuff. Saying that women are allowed to be members of the committees and be officers. Well, please, come on. Those are the things I said, just do it. The more complicated things, those we're not even going to address yet. Like changing notification dates and things like that. Those were annoyances that we've had in the past. But I've got notes on the bylaws right now that are on them. If you go to the website, to the bylaws, there's 3 versions up there. The first version is Brennan's suggestions for changes. I put in everything I'd like to see changed. I withdraw most of those things. Just make it the easy things. Then there's the original, then there's the bylaws as amended in 1999, which are really bad. And then there were the ones that before they were amended, and they're just awful. So we got 3 sets of bylaws up there. We'd like to get at least a cleaner version of current ones. then we'll worry long-term about other changes that aren't really important.
That totally makes sense. But do we know that the way we are voting on the potential amended bylaws is legal?
Yes,
Oh.
it's stipulated how you
in
can
the
do
current
that.
bylaw?
Yes.
Yes.
The procedure for revising the bylaws is stipulated in the bylaws. The procedure for changing the covenants requires a vote of all owners. Bylaws, it's just a majority vote of people who attend the meeting.
Right.
So if you got strong
Says that
feelings,
Specifically?
yes.
Okay.
It says that
On the
specifically.
vote, the notification goes to everybody.
And we've done that. That's one reason I put it on this form, because unfortunately, bylaws changes require a 60-day notice, whereas this meeting requires a 2-week notice. So I put them both on the same notice, just in case we might finally get off the dime and do something about the bylaws.
Okay.
Yes.
Any more discussion on bylaws changes? Okay. Remember January 21. We'll send out a notice of the meeting and everything when it gets closer. But yeah, so that we have this same room reserved
Yep.
for that day.
Same time, same place.
Okay. Really quick. Sorry, I'm 15 minutes over. But we had good discussion. That's great. Volunteers for any committees. Anybody besides Matt want to volunteer for any of our committees?
Make sure you got your form. Give me the last form and the...
All right. You can always volunteer at the last minute or just show up when we have something going on and participate. I think that's really cool. So next, the directors, and currently, this is our list of voted in directors that we've had for a period of time. Anybody interested in being a director? We can put your name up there.
What about our directors for social events?
Yeah, I didn't get their three names. So
that should be Vicki and Dale. And
Vicki, Dale, and Mary.
That needs to be added up there if you're going to vote that as a whole.
We made them co-chair.
The chairman.
Yeah, co-chairs, that's what I meant to say.
Is there a vacancy there, Bob? Is that-
Well, we had 3 volunteers that took Laura's place, which is Vicki, Dale, and Mary, all volunteered at the same time. So they aren't they're appointed to that position. It's not only 3 or 4 directors were originally voted in, and then the rest were assigned by the board. And we can continue to assign people, or we can take, committee chairs, that kind of thing, to expand the use of the board. But at this point, the directors that were voted in, which are listed up there, either have to be re-voted in, or they can resign, or we can have other members.
What about Cindy, our treasurer? Do I don't see your name up there?
Yeah, why isn't she
Cindy
doing
was
that?
appointed by the board as treasurer. She was never voted in as a director.
That's correct. She was not.
Yeah. So.
Would she like to be a director? No.
Are you tired of being appointed by the board?
Don't ask. Don't ask. Don't ask.
So we're just talking about voted positions. So we have 4 people that have been appointed by the board, which is our 3 chair people for committee or for social events, and Cindy, our treasurer, all been appointed, which is acceptable, but they have to be reappointed after a new board is established. So today we vote on board members, and I'll ask one more time if I have any volunteers to be a director, a board member. We can put your name there, and we'd be happy to give you an opportunity. Really?
I would volunteer.
Okay. Okay. So, probably.
Second.
Yeah, okay, so anybody else want to volunteer for a position on the board? Great. Okay. So we have 5. Are you wait? Anybody who was on the board last year still running to be on the board this year?
I'll stay.
You'll stay.
Do I have to?
Okay. I'll stay. I noticed my wife's not looking this direction. So. All right, yeah, I'll stay. I have a good backup in Dick as a vice president, or I have had, so I'll stay. Okay, so we have 5.
What about those 3 people that were doing are they all directors?
But they're appointed by the board.
Oh.
Yeah, they're
Along
just
with the treasurer.
yeah.
These are board directors.
None of them have opted to run for a board directorship position. I think, did Vicky escape? No, come on. Where's your hand? You want to be a director? Well,
I'm a co-chair. 50% of mine.
Okay.
I just have a question on. So we have each one of these individuals is very dedicated to whatever position that they've been appointed to or voted to. What about an at-large position?
Okay.
they're all.
So the question is what about an at-large position? So the way it works in our bylaws is our board members are elected to the board by population, so we vote them in, and then membership votes them in, and then the directors themselves decide what positions they'll take. So at-large isn't a bad position to have available on the board, because there's always some. Yeah, it fills a void where somebody's not an expert in a certain area. And
is it appropriate to consider adding that to the board at this time, or
It would be a bylaw change.
Technically, we can't. We're restricted to the bylaws to 5 directors, and they're all at large. And then the directors have a meeting right after this one, where we spend 30 seconds, call a meeting, approve the last minutes, and pick who's going to be the officers. And we stuck Bob with it.
So
we could ask.
but I like where you're going with that.
They don't have to have a title.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Do you want to throw your name in the hat? Oh, well, yeah, Amy, she already did. I'm not letting her out now. So
I'm definitely more interested in getting involved this year.
Good.
Great. Okay, cool. That's good. Okay, so this is going to be easy because we have five people interested in participating on the board, and we have 5 positions open on the board, and so we don't need to take individual votes unless we want to. Does anybody think we need to go around the room and take individual votes?
Vote on the slate.
Okay, so we have five positions open, 5 people offering to fill those positions. All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we accept the 5 officers as listed.
Well, and added Amy Whiting.
Right, correct.
Yeah, I didn't put. I was going to try to type, but I second now. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded that we accept the 5 volunteers as board members. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? You can't oppose, Amy. You're one of them. So it's unanimous. And anybody have anything else? Any questions? Anything going on? New business? Okay, I'm sorry we're late. I'm never late like this. I'm usually late getting there, but I'm not late leaving them. So, we good? Okay, thanks you guys. All right.
Turn that off.
Sure.
I have the kidney stone. Yeah.